Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide, and in today's episode we are checking out the Penstar eNote device. This is something that I covered a couple of weeks ago with the unboxing and first impressions, and now it's finally time to actually take an in-depth review look at it. So let's check it out. Before we begin, this unit has been sent to me directly by Penstar, but they don't get to say anything about what my opinions or what my impressions are about this device, because once I'm finished, then I send this device back to them, and that's that. If you like the work that I do and the independence of my deep guide, then I invite you to like the videos, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and also you can check out the mydeepguide.com/shop, where you can find MDO and MMP. Both are hyperlinked PDF documents that help you organize all of your personal or professional organizing needs. More information about them you can find in the description below. There are linked playlists down below where you can find far more information, but just know that purchasing either of these products not only directly helps support the independence of my deep guide, but you also get a really good organizer, which is especially relevant at this time of year because 2024 is almost at an end. So it's a great way to start up organizing your 2025 with MDO 2025. And now onwards with the Penstar eNote in-depth review. And let's start first with the overview of the Penstar eNote tablet, what it is. So this is a 10.3-inch monochromatic e-ink Android 11 powered tablet that does not have touch capacity. So the only way that you can interact with the content that's on the screen is either via pen, which is an EMR pen but not a standard one, a little bit on that later, or via these 9 buttons, 8 of which are programmable. The back and refresh button is not programmable. The tablet runs a custom OS skin, but it's an Android 11 underneath. Unfortunately, it is not a Google Play certified device, so you do not have a Google Play Store on it. The only way that you can actually install other APK files is via sideloading, but then you have to verify that you're using the correct version for the correct type of SoC and the correct type of Android version that you have in there. But nothing that you do will make apps that rely on Google Play services. That will not work, because for Google Play services to work, it needs to be a Google Play certified device. It has an HD Carta screen with 227 ppi. As I said, it's monochromatic, and they're using something called Pure View stack or screen, where they've gotten rid of the touch layer in order to try and improve the whiteness and the clarity of the image. That's at least what they are saying. So it is an e-reader and an e-note taker with some additional capabilities, but essentially it's an Android 11 tablet underneath all of this. No touch capability, buttons, pen. Penstar has really similar internals like the Remarkable Paper Pro, because it does have, I'm pretty sure it has the same 1.8 gigahertz 4-core or quad-core SoC with only 2 gigabytes of LPDDR RAM, and Penstar has only 32 gigabytes of internal storage. The main problem here that I notice is that the 2 gigabytes of LPDDR4 RAM, while it may be sufficient for Remarkable Paper Pro that doesn't run Android, Penstar does run an Android system, and 2 gigabytes is simply too low for something like that. It runs a 10.3 Carta HD e-ink display. It does use their Penstar Pure View screen technology, which means that it's basically they've removed the touch layer stack from the device, and the front layer and the front light stack, those are removed. And the point behind that was the pursuit of getting the whiteness of the screen, the brightness of the screen, and the contrast content of the screen to be as good as possible. So touch does not exist on the Penstar, but what does exist is a stylus with 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity, which I honestly don't understand why it would be there, because that is an unnecessary strain on the system. I really don't see the point of going 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity, mainly because the brushes that are on the device don't really utilize that in any way, shape or form. It has a G sensor for auto rotation, and it doesn't have front light, as I already mentioned. It's running on Android 11, and they say third-party app compatibility support, but it means only sideloading of APKs. Handwriting Conversion is powered by MyScript. It has both 2.4 and 5 GHz wireless connectivity. Bluetooth is supported, and USB-C can function, of course, for charging, data communication, OTG, and as a headphone jack converter as well. And also it has cloud storage integration such as Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive. It has a massive 6,000 milliamp battery, which really is a ginormous kind of battery, and it doesn't really add too much to the weight because the device is actually 390 grams despite it having such a massive battery, and it didn't grow to be super thick at 5.5 millimeters. So a pretty good combination here. Now, other specs is buttons. It has buttons. It has a power button, which also doubles as a refresh button if you press and hold it. And it has 9 customizable physical buttons, which is freaking cool. And you do need them because, remember, no touch on this device. It has a speaker and a microphone, and that's that. So let's start with the design and the build quality. And this is an all plastic bucket type of design for the device. And then you have the front panel, which is a glass panel HD Carta screen. Then you take a look at the extended side over here, and then you actually see that we have 9 physical buttons. I like the fact that the frame around the screen is matching or trying to match the color or the grayness of the screen. So I think that overall it's a nice design. It feels good-ish. The build quality I think is nice. There's nothing creaking or cracking when it's a plastic device. That's something that you gotta kind of take a look at. Then when it's a thin and a plastic device, you take a look at the straightness, and this one is fairly straight, or basically perfectly straight on both sides. It does feel a bit heavier than what I would expect from a plastic device like this, especially with the thinner edges. The weight is distributed somewhere around here mostly, so if you hold it in this hand, you will feel the weight kind of tugging a little bit more on this side, whereas when you hold it here, you feel less of a weight actually tugging on this side. If I try to use it like this, I have a problem with weight distribution where, again, the weight seems to be in this area of the device here, and then it's really kind of thugging. And while the design is really good for this type of operations, that weight really pushes, and then it forces me to kind of hold the device in a different way, where I have to brace the device from the back here and then operate it this way. So the ergonomics, I think, are a missed opportunity here because of the weight distribution and the challenging width and the layout of the device. On one hand, this can lend itself to be really good because the buttons are easy to reach with both fingers from either side when you're holding it like this. Unfortunately, the tugging of the weight from the top corner here makes it fairly uncomfortable to actually use it like this, and it's tiring. So the ergonomics, I don't think that they are fully thought out or tested out. I do like these edges here. That makes it very easy to pick up the device, and it's okay to kind of hold it in your hand. The build quality, as I said, it's really good. The fittings are nice, and yeah, there's precision is good. It's just that the ergonomics of it for prolonged use are a little bit on the fiddly side. Layout of the device, we have a flat panel screen on top. We have these 8 physical buttons. So we have 4 programmable upper, 4 programmable lower buttons, and a back/refresh button, which is not programmable. On the front, you also have this grill on the side where we have the speaker is here, and then you have a 4 microphone array arranged across the surface here. On the side, we have these 2 little notches which are used for slotting in the half cover. On the top, we have the power button, not with the fingerprint reader or anything. It's a plastic power button as well. Nothing on the side, nothing on the other side, and on the bottom, nothing except the USB-C connectivity port. On the back, it's a fairly clean array. I think it looks nice. You just have the logo, mumbo jumbo here, and that's that. It doesn't have anti-skid pads, but the surface is such that it doesn't really slip and slide as much as an all aluminum alloy type of device like Note Air 4C or any Note Air. Image quality and clarity is okay at best on the eNote Penstar. So here I have a standard document that I use on all other units, and considering that the main point of removing the touch layer of the screen was to create for a superior reading experience, I don't see it. I'm really not seeing it. I can't really characterize this. This is not bad by any means, but it's nothing exceptional either. For example, this doesn't come even close to the image quality, clarity, and contrast that you can find on the Books Go 10.3. That is the current standard of comparisons, because that is also a non-front lit monochromatic 10.3 inch e-ink device. So it's a direct point of comparison, and if you are making such a bold move of removing the touch functionality and adding the physical buttons and kind of changing the whole layout and design, and this is one of your main selling points, I don't really understand why this device was not coupled with an HD Carta 1300 300 ppi screen. That being said, the image quality is okay, but it is lacking. Thankfully, you do have the options of adjusting the image quality, so you do have some control levels, and you do have the option to adjust the contrast. You also have the fit width option, or the fit screen, or the paper option. You can zoom, but considering that this is not a touch enabled device, there's no pinch to zoom functionality. If you want to zoom, you gotta zoom in this way, and that's not really it also feels extremely odd. Also, the zooming goes all the way to 1500%, and it's just kind of strange. This is just one section of the user interface of the OS, and to me this feels like a proof of concept type of an OS, not functionality wise but user interface wise, because it's so basic and so bland, and it has zero identity, that it's very difficult to kind of consider this as a finished type of a user interface. I want to get back on track, but it's very difficult to remain focused on image quality and stuff because I have to interact with the user interface, and as soon as I do, then things become kind of weird. However, in the Reader app, you do have this refresh button here, and this is not a full screen refresh, this is refresh modes, because it has these two arrows, and that's the only differentiation that you will have from a full screen refresh, which is also here and an arrow, but it has a different icon. So this, when you see this in the system, that's a full screen refresh. When you see this, then this gives you options for refresh modes, and refresh modes that you have are normal, clear, fast, and ultra. For the love of me, I don't understand why would you need this, because maybe I'm missing something really important, but the only area where I could actually change the refresh modes is in the Reader itself. I couldn't find it system-wide. I couldn't find, and I've looked and I've read through the whole user manual, and I've tried my best to find the refresh mode, because if you try to browse, you really want a faster refresh mode, but I couldn't really find it anywhere. So this is the only place where I could actually find that this device is capable of different refresh modes. Why you would want different refresh modes here? Well, you have normal and clear. The clear is basically Regal refresh mode. So these are, oh yeah, of course, if you're in menus, then the page up and down buttons suddenly become volume control buttons, but as soon as you go out, then they can be used as page up and down. Just some of the many issues that you will encounter on this system and this tablet. So this is the normal refresh mode, and while normal refresh mode is supposed to be best quality and best de-ghosting, you can clearly see quite a bit of ghosting actually going on here. So then we can go to clear, and I can continue browsing, but you can see that we still have ghosting happening. And it took me a while to actually figure out what's going on. And what's going on is that there's a bug that they don't do a full refresh when you change the refresh mode. They do a full refresh only on X amount of pages. Essentially what the system should do is when you change the mode, it should do a refresh so that when you start browsing, now you can see that in a regal refresh mode, de-ghosting is a lot better. But still, you do get some faint ghosting. So when we're switching to fast, then it gets to be faster in refresh modes. You do get some image degradation quality here, so you can clearly see that it's degrading images, but we're starting to get cumulative ghosting, the likes of which I have seen maybe on devices 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. That's basically the equivalent of the performance here that we're seeing. So you can see very quickly we're starting to have cumulative ghosting going on. And then when you go to ultra, it degrades resolution, it degrades contrast to get better speeds, right? And it does get better speeds, but also ghosting becomes much worse. So, or the reader supports reading of EPUBs as well. So this is an EPUB, and then we can see how it looks like. Again, because this is not a touch-enabled device, you don't have an option to adjust the zoom and fine-tune it. You do have an option by going into the option and then into the display. But the true test of the methodology is basically when you go to somewhere in the middle of a EPUB, and then you do a change, and then you can see, yes, so this device is doing a proper type of reformatting change, unlike what we've seen for years now on the Remarkable, for example. So you do have the option to adjust spacing, layout, vertical, horizontal, contrast, and the image quality rendering is actually quite nice for illustrations, for example. Unfortunately, we do get ghosting, even though I believe that we are in clear mode, which is supposed to be the best mode for de-ghosting. Unfortunately, that's what we do have here. I guess in theory, if you wanted completely ghost-free experience, maybe if we change the refresh to be every one page, then we should get completely ghost-free experience. And yeah, so you do have control to actually set that up. The blinking will be severe, and even then it doesn't work. Yeah, we still get ghosting. So yeah, de-ghosting issues here are fairly prominent. Displaying of images and magazines with images, I think, is fine. It looks okay. Again, nothing really spectacular, but for me, the impact, the first impression stays, which is, it's very consistent throughout. You get a very dated type of ghosting performance on this device. And I guess that it makes sense because I can't see that they're using anything modern or fancy to employ de-ghosting algorithms or methodologies or anything advanced like that. They're just simply plugging in an older type of panel, sending next page commands and giving it the refresh mode, and then that's what you get, which may have been fine 5 years ago, even maybe as recently as 3 years ago, but it certainly is not fine today when you have so many more advanced options with so many better results. So yeah, image quality is okay at best. but the de-ghosting performance and the low resolution, and it's just very, very dated. As far as reader functionality goes, well, you have, of course, tap in the middle, but with the pen, or you could program like the menu so that in the buttons that one of these can be the menu, so you can have reader's menu, right? So if I go, okay, so let's go back here. And then I could just press the button and that exposes the reader's menu. Unfortunately, everything about this device is very sluggish. So it works, but sort of like, you know, the leitmotif of the whole thing is it feels dated. When you expose the menu, you have the bottom and top options, very similar to what we have on standard readers, like on Neo readers. You have table of contents in the bottom here. And then you have controls here with bookmarks, annotations, everything that you want. Then we can go back, but you go back fully and not into the menu. So we have layout controls, which you've seen previously. The only thing I haven't shown is that you do have more options. So you have an option of auto turn page, which is totally bugged out. And then you have show annotation shortcuts, hide header and footer, remove watermark, show excerpt tips, and go to next screen when page height is no longer than the screen height. This is a very, very useful option for PDF reading, and it's not on by default. So this is where you need to turn it on when you need it and save backup file. So you do have all of these options and functionalities. And for me, if you do fit with, and you have that option that I showed turned on, then the next page functionality, sorry, my voice has gone because I'm recording so many videos, trying to carve out some free time for myself. So now my voice is kind of gone, but yeah. The next page and previous page will cycle through until the bottom of the page, and then they will go to the next page of the document, which is a very nice thing to see because I like that type of functionality. It's also extremely usable if you go into the horizontal menu or landscape mode. Then it becomes really, really powerful and usable for this type of document, for example, because it becomes very, very easy to read it and easy to navigate it. The refresh modes we've talked about. You have progress between chapters, beginning and the end of the document. You can have it speak to you.
The page mutator, reference page 109, mother and father. Their children, produced with low left and high right cross probability. During the crossover process, no random changes are made to the parameter values.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to stop it. Stop. Okay, now when we're in the age of almost indistinguishable AI voices, to have the kind of thing, it's yeah. Then we have excerpt, where you can do screenshot, area OCR, page OCR, which is also a useful kind of thing. In the top menu, we have going to home, back, search. We have a dark mode, which of course it's there, but would you want to use it with this type of quality? It depends on the content. So if you have an EPUB, then maybe, when you don't have such small characters. But for me, the biggest problem is that in dark mode, the ghosting issue is just exposed immediately. And we are in the Regal refresh mode, which is the best refresh mode for deghosting. So if we go to normal, then it just becomes far, far worse, much more quickly. But yeah, if you're interested in, yeah, you do have a dark mode. Then you have bookmarks and you have a split view. The split view automatically turns into a landscape and it opens up a new notebook that is associated with this document, and then you can perform normal notebook operations, such as making your entries. And when you're done, you can just go back. Eventually it will go back. It's kind of slow to react, but it does work. You do have a little bit more options here to go through recent read, open excerpt file, because excerpt files are text files that are linked and basically associated with this document, and that's something that I do like. And excerpt files work by basically making a selection, And then you can say you can copy it, you can make an excerpt or dictionary or search. And when you create an excerpt, it will just say like, hey, I'm creating this text file that's associated with this document, and what do you want to include in this entry? By the time you are done with the document, you have one file where everything is collated to, and you have references as well if you want excerpt time, book title, page number. So everything is connected and contained there, and that's a really, really cool thing to kind of have. Okay, that's another excerpt. Yep, and I'm gonna save and open. So you can just see how it looks like. So let's make a smaller font here, lower the keyboard, and basically that's what you get. So this is a standard text file that contains information, which document, where, and then what is the content that you've placed in. And the cool thing is that this being a text file, it's a very, very compatible thing that you can export anywhere else. So that is the open excerpt file, because when you start processing it, that you don't have to look for it, you can just go here, it opens it up, you look something up, you copy it, paste it, further on, etc. It's fine. Then you also have finally this icon here, which is for enabling the annotation mode. And for that, I think it makes more sense to go to MDO to show you that. All right, so now I've opened up MDO, that's my daily organizer. And yes, this device does support MDO MMP, meaning hyperlinked PDF documents. It works. So in the standard mode, your pen touches will interact with the hyperlinks, right? So you can go like, okay, so I'm in January, I want to go to week 3, and I want to go to make my plans. But how do you make entries, right? So these would be normally your touch interactions. Well, as soon as you need to make an entry, you basically switch to handwriting mode. And once you're in handwriting mode, you have these options here, which are your zoom in, zoom out, pan, brush options, very limited brush options. You do have like 3 brushes, ballpoint brush and marker. And you do have colors if you want, but this being a monochromatic device, you won't see them, but once you export, you will see them. You do have some shapes also, which is an interesting thing. Quite a few shapes to choose from, and different dotted lines, very, very reminiscent of how it works on books, notebooks. And you have pixel erase, stroke erase, which is what I prefer, and then you have range erase and clear entire page, and of course the selection mode, which is simply the select mode. And then you have a couple of more options: save comments, set annotation range. So if I'm here and I make my entry, and let's say that I want this to kind of repeat, so I can select it. Other than transforming, I don't know how can I actually do anything with this section, because my normal type of operation would be in MDO, for example. If I have repeating weekly tasks, I would make an entry, then copy paste, and then I would select the whole thing and copy paste in subsequent weeks to just make that entry. But in here, uniform scale are the black dots, non-uniform scale are the white squares, and that's okay, but I really don't know how can I copy that selection, and can I do anything with that selection. And that is very, very strange thing to kind of see, because it limits the functionalities severely on this one. So maybe I am not seeing something, but I've checked the menus and I can't find the option to copy. I find it difficult to believe that they would have such a big omission that you are not able to copy paste selections of your handwritings. That is very, very strange to me. So, but that's what it looks like at the moment, right? So yeah, you can make your entries, and you do have a selection tool, but that selection tool is uber limited, or it looks like it is. So once you're done with your entries, you close down, and then your pen again functions as your touch input, and then you need to kind of navigate the way you want. Navigation is fine, it works normally, and you do, of course, because this is a reader, you can actually switch to a faster refresh mode, and then yes, the refresh speed and the reaction is better, but the ghosting and image degradation is severe. And here you can also see that there's always a thinking period, because now we've overcome the bottleneck of the e-ink screen being slow. And everything, every single interaction, no matter what you do, even previous page, next page, there's a thinking period. This device simply cannot perform an instantaneous action regardless of the refresh mode. And that's, that's not that great. Finally, with the screen, we do have the reflection performance, and the reflection performance is not that good because it's using a pre-applied screen protector. So this is a dedicated screen protector that goes on here, and it does have that aftermarket type of performance. So while it does feel really, really nice for writing, it does have that paper-like feel. It really, really does feel good and authentic, and it's nice and soft feeling. However, the reflections are a problem with these aftermarket screen protectors, and here we see very, very sharp reflections, not enough dimming, not enough diffusion, and that does become a problem in certain situations. Battery performance on the Penstar eNote is really, really good, which is something that you would expect because it's a no-nonsense traditional type of monochromatic e-ink device with a massive battery. So it's just a combination that can't lose. And considering that it doesn't have a front light, it's only non-front light tests here, obviously. So the tests are the reading tests. I continuously read or flip pages every 20 seconds for 1 hour, and then I average out the results. And I do the same thing for writing, is I write continuously for 1 hour and then average out the consumption that way. So with the reading tests, you can expect to have 100 hours or more of continuous reading time on the Penstar eNote. Why is it 100 hours or more? Because it spent less than 1% in 1 hour of reading while also connected to Wi-Fi. So in order to actually get a more accurate result, I would need to flip those pages for many, many, many more hours to actually get that. But yeah, if you get to 100 hours, it's rather good. And as far as writing goes, because writing is a very, very demanding operation for any device, so that is where the battery consumption is going to go very, very low. On Penstar, you can actually expect to see 16.66 hours of continuous writing per charge, which makes it super awesome because in my book, as I always say, any device that can do 8 hours or more of continuous writing per charge is excellent, and this one can do 16.66 hours. So yeah, excellent battery life all around. Then we get to the writing performance and the writing experience. So the writing experience on the eNote is a mixed bag, and I believe strongly that the main culprit for that is the decision to go with this pen. Not the pen design itself. Pen is fine, it's just average. Build quality is all plastic, and all of this is going to fall apart very, very quickly. And I think that the main problem is the decision to go with the 8192 levels of pressure sensitivity versus 4096. There is zero reason or zero justification why somebody went with that, because there's nothing on this tablet software-wise or hardware-wise that utilizes that doubled resolution of pressure sensitivity. B or 2, I don't know which one I used, is the SoC and the tablet itself is not capable to process that doubled amount of data in a good way, and that reflects directly in performance, which is unfortunate because physically the writing sensation is very, very pleasant. It's a very, very nice type of paper-like sensation, and sound and everything feels good with nib on the screen itself, or the screen protector here. So from that aspect, it feels really, really nice to write. Unfortunately, what you actually get, the result, is not good on several levels, two of which are main levels. The first one is the writing latency is not that good, as you will see in the next part of this chapter. And the second is, I've noticed that the writing precision directly is dependent on how quickly I write. So slower I write, more precise the device is able to capture the input, and more it resembles my handwriting. However, if I start writing faster, I'm not talking about messiness here. Of course, when I start writing faster, it's going to be messier, and really don't care about that. I want it to capture my messiness. I want it to capture my mistakes and my stuff accurately, and that's where things become very, very disconnected. Because when you start writing faster, then the disconnect rises because the precision just becomes way, way off. And I wish that this type of writing experience was coupled with a device that actually can provide consistent and precise writing performance that would be on par with the experience. Right now, there's a very severe disconnect between high quality writing experience, bad quality writing performance. And when you combine them together, it's not terrible. It's better than Kobo, for example, definitely better than Kobo, but it's nowhere near the standards of other eNotes, and mainly Remarkable, Kindle Scribe, Supernote, and Books devices. Writing latency on a Penstar eNote is not the best at 49.16 milliseconds. Back in the days, Remarkable 1 was at around 50 milliseconds, and that felt fast, but that was 7 years ago, and things have dramatically changed since then. And now when you're at around the 50 millisecond mark, that means that usually devices that are like several years old, they have that type of performance, and unfortunately that's where the Penstar eNote falls. I don't know if that 8192 pressure sensitivity pen and technology has anything to do with this, or the fact that it's maybe not using the latest Carta. But either way, this is the result that Penstar eNote has as far as writing latency goes. And writing was actually fairly consistent and fairly good during during the D.E.S.T.A test here. So no matter how many times I repeated the test, it was always very consistent, very, very equal. So really good implementation. It's just that it's rather slow. Now, pen to surface distance was a surprise to me because they did lose the front light stack and they did lose the touch layer stack. So I was expecting it to be considerably lower than what we traditionally see on the devices with front light, but Penstar eNote has roughly around 0.95 millimeters of surface to screen distance. That's something that you notice. You can definitely see it and you can notice it normally, but you don't get the benefit of having a front light or anything like that. So it's not really the best situation there. Now, as far as the friction and the surface of the screen goes, it's actually fairly raspy. It just has that standard paper-like feel, screen protector pre-applied to a glass panel. So unfortunately, you do get that hardness of a glass panel. You do get that bad reflectivity problem with these types of paper-like screen protectors. So it's not terrible. As far as notebook functionality goes, well, there's some. Mostly it's contained here in the top menu. So you can choose different templates. It's very, very slow, but you do have the option of adding custom templates, but that also is a little bit of a process thing. And then you go back. There's no user interface option for back. You have to use the button. Then you have your pen options, and the pen options, you have a little bit more options here. I think I covered them in the unboxing and first impressions, so I'm not really going to go through that again. You have eraser options, stroke, range, erase all, and pixel. You have the lasso option. Let's see if we do have the option to copy in notebooks. So I've selected. What's happening? So I make a selection and then you can just move it, right? I don't think they get what the selection tool is for. Then you have option of inserting arrows, shapes, images, text, and then paste. Oh, is that how you paste? Clipboard is empty. But how do I copy? Do I maybe select this and then... No, I don't know. I really don't know. Then you have the page layout option here with the page numbers. It works, you just have to wait for it to open. And then you have page layout here where you can jump to different pages or you can manage pages. It will open eventually. There we go. And then you can move pages and you can copy to, save as, duplicate, insert, move forward, move next. So page management, basically. The weird thing how a notebook works on eNote is while you have page, next, and previous controls here, right? So that's fine. When you get to the last page, I would expect that the next page control just adds a new page, but it doesn't. You have to use a separate control. You have either an icon or you can set it as an add page. So in this case, I can use add page and it will add it and then you go. Counterintuitive, but it is there. That's the option and that's how it works. You got undo, redo, you got record options, and record options record stuff here and it records it like this. I can just play.
I'm interested to see how the recording functionality is in notebooks. First of all, how it records, how it plays back, and what is possible to do with the recordings.
It's very limited what you can do with recordings. You can organize them, like rename them, delete them, and all that kind of stuff. But mainly it's basically just recordings that are associated with the notebook, and it persists throughout the notebook, right? So it's not per page. It's not aware of the content while you're writing. It can't follow or go back to the page what you were writing, like we've seen on other some of the other tablets. Nope, this is just like, here's a recording, you can have it, and that's that. More importantly for me is that I don't have a way to export this. So while I have it here, I do not have an option to save or export further on where maybe somebody would be interested in. I'm absolutely sure that if I started to dig through the directory structure that I would be able to find them and extract them that way, because obviously they're contained on the tablet somewhere, and this is either M4A or MP3 format, but it would have been nice to actually just have an option, hey, I want to save it, share it, send it, or something, but you don't have that. Then we have more options here. Then you have save the notebook, convert to text, view recognized text, add table of contents. So that's an interesting thing. You can add a page of the current page, right? So I can just go like my TOC and then just add it. The keyboard, that's how the keyboard works. It's weird, but yeah, you have to kind of. And then when we go to contents, there's my table of contents, and that's it. So this is a nice thing to have, but my similar commentary as it was with the Books OS 4, I think that it's very rudimentary, very basic, and it's actually even more basic than it is on the Books OS 4 because there's no option of adding sub chapters or sub-contents. Then you can export all pages to PDF, screenshot current page, set as screensaver, set as power off image, set as template. You can share to, and the share to options would be with the current apps. So I can just say like, hey, I want to share this, and then I can share to, and it's email or PDF. So basically just exports as a PDF and then shares it onwards. So standard stuff. Then we also have settings, additional settings, where you can edit the cover, how the cover is. You can edit the category. This is the weird thing about it. It doesn't have a folder structure. It has these categories which act like folders, but they're not really folders. Then you have option to print. And while it does find my printer and it does send a task, printer task, to the printer, I do have an issue that I don't have enough control to tell it which tray to use, and you can bypass that by using, fiddling around. So you can get it to work, but it's a bit fiddly. When is printing ever straightforward? But you do have that option without the need of installing additional stuff. It's just a bit fiddly. Now let's get to the one that's also important, which is convert to text. And it's supposed to work with MyScript. First of all, it's not offline, so you have to be connected, and it sends this to a server that translates and then brings the result back. So this is how that process looks like. So I can just convert current page, English. I'm just going to leave it in one take so you can see how it performs with this one section here. Yeah, it's still going, just for this little thing. And this is not a one-off. This is basically every time you do anything, it just takes... December 2024, this is the performance of the device. I mean, the previous ones were long, but this is starting to get ridiculous. I wanted to keep it in one shot, but this is now starting to eat up time of the review, and I don't know if it's even going to manage to do it. Right, you know what? I got other things to do. This is kind of silly. I'm going to try just one more time the second page, because this is what I wanted to test out, because if it's MyScript, it's supposed to be able to recognize these things and understand them. And let's just switch to a different Wi-Fi connection. In order to obtain a smooth writing experience, the system drop-down menu cannot be used in the current window. Okay, I just discovered that. So you can't use the... So if I wanted to change the Wi-Fi connection while I'm in a notebook, what? Okay, if you tap enough on it, then it will move. It's a fairly frustrating experience. All right, I switched to the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Maybe that helps it. So let's try and convert this. Yeah, same page. And if it's MyScript, what it's supposed to do is actually give you the results, right? The square root of 9 should be 3. And this time it actually recognized. I'm also going to do a bit of winking while recording. Hell yeah, I'm gonna be winking while we're coding. But it doesn't really do the recognition here. So it doesn't do MyScript calculations that I would expect from it to do. So let's try the same page again with this internet connector, which is now gone because it's now no longer connected. And that's a very real issue that I'm talking about. And I'm in the same recording place where I record all of my videos, and the only other device that I've experienced to have signal issues was the prototype AI paper, both models, and this one. This is not a prototype. this is the finished product, this is the product here. So the Wi-Fi connectivity is an issue, and when you couple that with that your convert to text is relying on Wi-Fi connectivity and on that service actually being consistent, available, and all that kind of stuff, you're in a really bad place. And overall, I haven't been able to have a single good, straightforward conversion to text experience on this device. Just a general overview of functionalities in the UI. It's, I mentioned categories, right? So you have categories instead of folders. You always have the folder or category uncategorized. And then you can have your different folders here, and you can create subfolders, and then you can change fonts for each of the categories, and you can write stuff in as well. Maybe somebody finds that like, ooh, nice and interesting, but I really dislike that. But there it is. That's how that works, and that's how you organize your notes on this device. The reading category, this is where your reading notes are. If you remember from the split screen menu, this is where they are automatically placed. And by the date, this is not associated with the calendar. It's just using a calendar to show you when certain notes have been made so that you can see which they are. And it includes both just regular notes and the ones associated with the documents and things like that. Other things, you do have apps, you don't have Google Play services, so you do have these apps. You do have a music player, you have a calendar, a calculator, all that kind of stuff. Should you use this for, it disconnected again. If I just go like, for example, news.google, that's the fastest thing I can type here, and I go, come on, go. And when it loads, okay, headlines, it's like the rest of the stuff is slow, but when you start using this, it's borderline unusable and broken, because I did tap here, but right now this is the experience. I don't really get it. My experience and my testing, regardless of the room, regardless of anything, even when I had my phone as a hotspot and be it right next to the device or very, very close to the device or even normal distance from the device, the internet connection or the Wi-Fi connection is always problematic. And that hinders the functionality here very, very severely. So yes, you do have a browser, but I would never use this on this device in any capacity. So limit your expectations accordingly with what type of side loading of apps you want to actually add to this one. You can add screenshot, you can have screencast, mirrorcast mirroring, and that's pretty much about it. So not really versatile. It does have some Android functionalities, but fairly limited. And lastly, this is a half cover device, so it doesn't have a full cover. Has this cover on the side that once you get it to align, it goes into those two slots on the side, and it just goes here, covers the screen, so minimizes the bulkiness, minimizes the weight, and also has auto wake up and sleep functionality. It functions quite nicely overall because it fits the pen okay. My only problem is that when the pen is there, the flap is not far enough, so without the pen, the device will sit normally here. With the pen, it rises up, and because the pen cannot get out of the way enough for the device to actually lay flat on the surface. And somebody may say like, well, yeah, but you're doing all of the interactions with the pen. Well, not necessarily. I mean, maybe I would like to kind of utilize all of these buttons and use it as a reader, but then you have to you really do need to get the pen out to get the flat experience and then all of that kind of stuff. So The cover is there, and it's a half cover. It's okay, it looks nice, it works okay. Putting it on is fiddly. I recommend just keeping it on and using it like this, but for that you have to get used to or expect that the pen is going to be in the way and prevent the device to actually lie flat on the table. It's conclusion time for the Penstar eNote, and we start with the cons. And I'm not going to focus on every small individual type of con because there's actually too many individual cons, but I'm going to try and summarize them in different categories. So the first category of a con that I would have to attribute to this device is the performance. So performance across the board, both the performance of the device, both the performance of the screen, ghosting, image quality, all of these things, they are simply not really up to par with the today's standard of e-ink devices and the offering that we have on the market. If you were to look at this device maybe 3 or 4 years ago, then it would have been fine. But we've had significant developments, especially this year and the previous year, where that type of performance and that type of outdatedness is simply no longer good enough. The decision to go with a pen with this type of pressure sensitivity density, I think, is a wrong one, simply because two main reasons. A, there is absolutely no benefits that I can see or feel or experience from that decision. So this device and this platform has no features that actually is able to implement or put to use that type of pressure sensitivity resolution. Second reason is that this device and a platform, they are not able to actually deal with that amount of data. And then the index or the extra little reason would be, should you not like this pen for some reason, it's a fine pen, nothing really, nothing exceptionally good or bad, except that the build quality is extremely cheap and all this plastic stuff is gonna break really, really quickly and easily. But even so, like maybe you have your favorite pen, and since this is already an EMR device, you should be able to use any pen that you want, but because of that decision and because the way it works, you can't. Wi-Fi connectivity on this device is extremely weak, extremely unstable, unusually so. While it does have refresh modes, I, for the life of me, couldn't find a way to utilize or use those different refresh modes outside of the e-reader. Writing performance is not good on this device. So while writing experience and feel is actually very, very nice, but the writing performance, not just the latency, but also the precision and the inconsistency of the precision, and all of that actually results in a experience that is disconnected, imprecise, and not really up to par with other contenders, especially at this price range. While really looking forward to actually using a device with such an approach that they go away with the touch and they just have the buttons here, unfortunately, the way that was actually implemented, there were so many better ways and smarter ways to actually incorporate these to be a direct and easily usable and flexible type of user interaction with the device. But unfortunately, it's boiled down to as basic as they could possibly have made it, which was, hey, here's a button, here's a function, there you go. There's no UI integration, there's no OS integration. I mean, you could have easily have designed the user interface or the OS user interface to actually be interactive and in line with these buttons so that things are lining up with buttons and it actually is nice and works and all that kind of stuff. Instead, you just get the most boilerplate functionality that you possibly could do, and it feels just like the bare minimum. And that leads me to the OS skin that they are using on this device. While the OS is Android 11, they're using their own Penstar, something called OS, which since I've gotten the device, it never received any updates. Although the device definitely needs updates, for well over a month, it hasn't received anything, like zero. The state of the OS and just the way the user interface and all that stuff, it's nothing confusing, but it's not even at the stage of refinement, let alone to comment about the level of refinement. There is no refinement here. It's just as basic as it gets. There are good basic things and there are bad basic things. This is not in the good basic category. While this is one of the whole major selling points that it doesn't have touch, that is also a con that you absolutely have to be aware of. It has no touch support. Therefore, your interaction with the device, it will be different because you are used to touch interactions and things like that. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but this is a con that you absolutely have to be aware of. The operating system, while it tries to kind of remedy the situation, it's not really centered around the fact that it doesn't have touch, but rather you have the pen acting as the touch. And lastly, it would be the price. The full price of this device is $399, while the full price of Books Go 10.3 is $380 or $379, which means that it's $20 cheaper. Right now, with the discount, it is cheaper than the Books Go 10.3, but MSRP price and how it's listed, this costs more than the Books 10.3. That is absurd. And now on to the pros of the Penstar. And yeah, the writing feel and the writing experience is really, really nice. Unfortunately, as you've seen in the cons, the writing performance and precision is not that good, but the actual act of writing and the surface of the screen and how it feels when you're writing, it's actually very, very pleasant. I love the idea that you go away with the touch input, which can cause so many unpleasantness and things like that. And I really love the idea of buttons. So the really good thing is that you have an interesting approach here, and you do have quite a bit of flexibility with 8 programmable buttons. But that being said, the way that it's integrated into the rest of the device is basic. However, it is there, and it does offer something that's a little bit different and a little bit more tactile. I like the half cover, the way it works if you don't take it off and you don't actually fiddle around with putting it on, because that's not really that good. But despite it not allowing a fully flat kind of laying on the surface because of the pen, that the pen flap doesn't really go away from the device. But despite it, I think that it's actually a nice kind of package, and it feels agile and it looks nice, and it's very, very portable. I actually like the overall design of the device, and I think that the execution is done in a really good way. So as simple as it is, it doesn't really matter, because if it's executed in a good way like it has been here, I think that it's a nice thing to see, and definitely it's a pleasant device to interact with, it's a nice device to look at, and it's a nice device to handle in your hands. I like that the OS does have the widgets, which actually help you streamline some of the workflow, because it's really, really needed, as so many other aspects of the OS are not streamlined at all. This aspect here, I do like that you can have some shortcuts, that you can go into the notebooks, into the libraries via widgets, that you can do your apps, well, some apps that are there, and yet the calendar organization is okay. It's kind of, it can be useful and practical, I guess. I really wanted to like and love the Penstar eNote. And I was actually quite excited during the unboxing and first impressions because of the potential that I actually saw that this device could offer when you have a bold choice of getting rid of the touch input and going with the tactile buttons, the way that it's been solved and all of that kind of stuff. That was like, okay, this is potentially very, very interesting, and suddenly so many ideas kind of popped up that like, oh my god, this can be done in a really, really nice way. And since I unbox everything and do the first impressions on camera, but unfortunately after having spent time with it, using it and trying it out, it just doesn't really leave me with a desire to continue want to use it, or indeed, yeah, do anything with it. So there you go. That's the review of the Penstar eNote. Please do let me know what you think and what your impressions are of the device, if you have tried it, if you have owned it, or if you do currently own it. I hope that you found the video interesting and or informative. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!